What's up, horror lovers? Ever smiled at a stranger just to be polite, only to regret it instantly? Yeah, this one starts with a smile. A simple, harmless gesture. But in horror, even kindness can crack open the door to something dark. So grab your flashlight, lock your doors, and whatever you do, don't drop your guard. It was supposed to be a quick stop. Just shampoo, maybe snacks. That's all she needed. The kind of lazy, no-makeup run college students make to Dollar General when life's on autopilot. She pulled open the glass door, and he was already there. A tall man, mid-30s maybe, thin frame, buzzed hair. "Ladies first," he said with a toothy grin, holding the door. Polite enough. She smiled, mumbled thanks, and stepped inside. But even then, something felt off. His eyes lingered too long. Too still. The store was nearly empty. Just buzzing fluorescents and half-stock shelves. But every aisle she turned into, he was already there. First cleaning supplies, then snacks, then cosmetics. Always pretending to browse, always too close. She started to speed walk, zigzagging through aisles. Yet somehow he kept up, his boots echoing softly behind her. It wasn't until she rounded a corner to the detergent section that he finally made his move, by sidestepping right into her path. He didn't smile this time. Just stood there, body stiff, shoulders square. "Hey," he said casually, "you local?" She froze. Yeah," she replied, trying not to meet his eyes. "You go out? Any bars around here worth hitting?" His voice was smooth, but the question hit wrong. She faked a polite laugh and shook her head. "Don't really party," she lied. But he wasn't listening. He just kept talking about bars, about his weekends, about how it's rare to find someone as cute as you in a place like this. She tried to leave, muttered a quick, "I gotta go," and turned, but his hand shot out. Not to grab her, not quite, just hovering, blocking. "You got a number?" he asked. Her stomach flipped. She laughed nervously, shook her head. "Sorry, I don't give that out." His smile dropped. "Come on. We gotta keep in touch somehow." Her brain scrambled. Say no again? Run? Scream? But she was alone. No cashier in sight. No other shoppers. Just them, cornered in silence. "Snapchat?" she offered, her voice barely above a whisper. He lit up. Perfect. Then, like it was the most natural thing in the world, he shoved his arms forward, dumping everything he was holding into hers. "Snacks, razors, shampoo. Hold these," he said, already turning away. "My phone's in the car." She didn't move. Couldn't. The pile in her arms was so high she couldn't even see past it. She just stood there, heart pounding, as the door jingled behind him. The moment he vanished outside, something in her snapped. She dropped everything. Razors clattered. Cereal hit the floor. She spun and bolted, half slipping on the linoleum, racing to the back of the store. She wedged herself between a mop bucket and a stockroom door, holding her breath like a hunted animal. Every second stretched like molasses. The jingling bell rang again. Was it him? She didn't check. Didn't dare. Minutes passed. Or maybe years. Finally, when her breath returned, she peeked through the cleaning aisle. No one. No tall man. Just a forgotten mess she'd left in aisle 4. She crept to the register, forced a smile for the cashier who had magically appeared, and checked out like nothing was wrong. But her eyes never left the glass doors. Her heart never stopped sprinting. Driving home felt like navigating a war zone. She checked her rearview mirror every 5 seconds. Black truck? Silver SUV? She couldn't tell. Every car looked like his. Every red light lasted too long. When she pulled into her apartment complex, she didn't park out front. She circled the block twice, then ducked into a guest spot, just in case. At home, she slammed the door, locked it, deadbolted, and drew every blind. Then she opened Snapchat. There he was, already added. His username? A random mix of letters, nothing personal. But his Bitmoji looked like him. His first message had already come through. "You didn't add me back." She blocked him instantly, then checked Facebook out of paranoia. He had already tried to add her. Her full name, her photo. How the hell had he found her? Weeks passed. She never went back to that Dollar General. Took longer routes to class. Changed her routine. But that face, the smile he wore when he dumped his things on her, like he owned her time, it stayed with her. Let this be a warning. Never mistake politeness for permission. Never trust a smile from a stranger who stares too long. And to the man who cornered her with a grin, let's not meet again. Ever. Ever cracked a joke so dark, so wrong, that the silence that followed felt like the world stopped spinning? Well, one woman did. And what came after has haunted her ever since. Picture this. Just a normal day. A quick trip to the dollar store. Bright fluorescent lights buzzing overhead, and the faint scent of disinfectant in the air. She wasn't thinking about death. Not yet. But evil has a habit of creeping up when you least expect it. Like a chill down your neck in the middle of a summer afternoon. She was just another 20-something, running errands after work. Hoodie, headphones, and a mental checklist. Snacks, shampoo, batteries. The store was half empty. That weird hour between after-school rush and evening crowd. A calm, quiet lull. She hummed along to a song only she could hear as she weaved through aisles, unaware that fate had already picked her as the main character in a very real horror story. The kind that doesn't end when the credits roll. As she approached the checkout lane, her eyes landed on the two men in front of her. The first was a wiry man in his 60s with a tired posture and faded jacket. The second, well, he was built like a tank. Mid-40s, buzz-cut, veins popping beneath his sleeves. Jaw set like stone. Neither of them spoke. But what truly sent a shiver through her wasn't them. It was their shopping cart. Inside, 4-gallon jugs of bleach. 4. And an unsettling mound of cleaning supplies, gloves, plastic sheeting. It looked less like a grocery run and more like prep for a cleanup job no one should ever know about. She blinked, uneasy, trying to rationalize. Maybe they own a cleaning service, she thought. But that idea crumbled fast when she glanced at the older man's trembling hands. The younger one, he stood statue still, his dead eyes fixed forward like he was guarding something. She felt her nerves fray, but tried to play it cool. Humor was her default weapon. So she smiled, leaned in just a little, and let the words fly out. Whoa, that's a lot of bleach. Who are you planning to kill? The air seemed to freeze. No laugh, no smile, not even a blink. Instead, the younger man turned his head. Slowly. Mechanical, almost. His eyes locked on hers, gray and empty like frozen lakes. It wasn't anger on his face. It was worse. It was indifference. The kind of look a butcher gives a slab of meat. Cold calculation. Her joke dissolved in her throat as her stomach turned to ice. The older man reached for his wallet and paid. Not a word. Just silence thick enough to choke on. She suddenly wished she could rewind time and keep her mouth shut. The beeping of the scanner and rustle of plastic bags did nothing to ease attention. The men stood still after paying, bags in hand. No small talk, no movement toward the door. Just standing, as if waiting for something. Or someone. Her. She forced a shaky smile, tossed her items on the conveyor, and kept her eyes down. But she could feel them, especially the one with arms like rebar, still watching. The cashier said something cheerful. She didn't hear it. Her mind was screaming. Fight or flight had woken up, and it was punching inside of her chest. She grabbed her bag and bolted. Outside, the daylight had begun to dim into that eerie golden hour where shadows stretched like claws. Her car was parked far across the lot, and there they were, still standing by the sliding doors, the same eerie silence stretching between them. Their heads turned as she stepped out. Step by step, she tried not to look like she was panicking, but the weight of their stares made her hands tremble on the keys. The stone-faced man took a step forward, just one, enough to send her sprinting the rest of the way. She dove into her car, slammed the lock, and gasped like she'd surfaced from underwater. But she wasn't safe yet. No, sir. The big one had walked halfway across the parking lot and stood frozen in place, watching her. He didn't yell, didn't move, just watched, like he was memorizing her license plate, her face, her routine, her soul, She turned the key and peeled out of that lot, tires screeching as her heart pounded like were drums in her ears. Rear view mirror, empty, but she didn't slow down for miles. Days passed, then weeks, but the memory stayed. That dead-eyed stare haunted her dreams. She kept replaying over and over. What were they planning? Who was the bleach for? Were they killers? Were they cleaners? Had she interrupted something or been chosen for something? She started locking her doors religiously, bought a dash cam, changed her routines, and always checked her rear view mirror, especially at dollar stores. One joke, 1 second. That's all it took to brush shoulders with whatever darkness those men carried. So, next time you're out and see something that feels off, a cart full of bleach, a stranger who won't blink, a silence that tastes metallic, maybe don't crack a joke. Maybe just walk away. Because what you think is harmless humor might just be the thing that saves your life or seals your fate. Remember, the scariest monsters aren't hiding under your bed. They're shopping in line right beside you, watching, waiting. And if they ever turn and stare, don't look back. Imagine clocking into your minimum wage job, expecting nothing worse than a spilled soda or a rude customer, and instead, staring down the eyes of someone who looks ready to kill. Today's tale isn't set in a haunted forest or curse asylum. Nope, it's a Dollar Tree, the kind of place you buy birthday balloons, off-brand batteries, and apparently awaken pure rage. This is a chilling account of a cashier who thought her shift would be boring, until one man changed everything over a single missing item. It was an ordinary afternoon in small-town America. You know the kind: lazy ceiling fans, half-lit fluorescent bulbs, the distant beep of scanners, and the slow buzz of plastic bags being opened. Our cashier, let's call her Tara, was about halfway through her shift. Nothing dramatic, just price checks, small talk, and an occasional kid trying to sneak a candy bar. But then in walked him, tall, mid-40s, black jacket, even though it was 80 degrees outside. Eyes like cracked glass. And from the second he stepped in, something in Tara's gut whispered, trouble. He wasn't loud. Not at first. He walked the aisles with slow, deliberate steps, scanning the shelves like a predator. Then at the counter, with the deadpan calm of someone teetering on the edge, he asked for toothpicks. Just toothpicks. Tara glanced under the counter. Behind the register, nothing. Sorry, sir, she said with a polite shrug. We're all out today. That was it. That was a spark. The second the words left her lips, the man's face twisted like a rubber mask peeling off. The calm evaporated, and what was left was pure, unfiltered rage. He slammed his fist on the counter, so hard the credit card machine shook. His voice exploded, loud, cracked, furious. No toothpicks? N.O. toothpicks, he howled, as if she had just announced the end of the world. Customers froze. Tara stepped back. I ought to kill you, he snarled, spitting the words like venom. You think this is funny? You think I'm playing? The store seemed to shrink, every sound swallowed by his rage. He wasn't just throwing a tantrum. He looked like he meant it. Tara's breath caught in her throat. Her fingers itched toward the phone, but her mind screamed, don't escalate. Her manager, an older woman named Doreen, emerged from the back room after hearing the commotion. But even she looked stunned into silence. The man kept going, fists clenched, body trembling. You people think you can play with folks like me, he growled. I'll be waiting outside. Watch. And just like that, he stormed out, screaming profanities, pointing back through the glass, daring someone to follow. Everyone inside stood motionless. Tara's heart pounded so loud she couldn't hear the air conditioner anymore. It wasn't until a fellow customer, a retired vet with a calm voice, walked over and said, Hey, kid, you okay? That she felt her legs again. Together with Doreen, she locked the front doors. The cops were called. Footage was reviewed. But here's the creepiest part. The man hadn't just left. No, he circled the store. For nearly 10 minutes, security caught him pacing the parking lot, mumbling, watching, waiting. Eventually, the man vanished, melting into the rows of parked cars like a shadow disappearing at dusk. But the damage was done. The terror he brought lingered like a stench you can't clean. Tara couldn't finish her shift, couldn't sleep that night, couldn't shake the thought that all it took was a $1 item, that she might have died over something meant to clean your teeth. The absurdity made it more terrifying. And that phrase, "I'll be waiting," kept ringing in her ears like a curse cast under cheap fluorescent light. Dollar Tree filed a formal police report. But of course, nothing came of it. No name, no license plate, just a blurry face in the footage and a deep pit in Tara's stomach. For weeks, every time she passed a customer wearing black, her body flinched. Every stranger's stare felt just a little too long. She even changed shifts for a while. But the trauma, that didn't punch out. It followed her home, into her dreams, curling up in the corner of her room, like an unwanted guest who never leaves. So next time you're working late, surrounded by cheap trinkets and budget snacks, remember this. Horror doesn't need ghosts or monsters. Sometimes it wears sneakers, carries small bills, and loses its mind over toothpicks. And sometimes the scariest stories don't end with a bang, but with a whisper from a stranger who says he'll be waiting, and disappears before the cops ever arrive. You want a happy ending? You're in the wrong place, because Tara still looks over her shoulder, and somewhere out there, he might still be waiting. You ever worked a night shift so creepy it made your skin crawl? Yeah, imagine sharing your job with someone or something that's not even alive. Welcome to the late shift at a small-town Dollar Tree, where the employees weren't just restocking shelves, they were surviving the night with Jerry, a prank-loving spirit who turned an ordinary store into his haunted playground. Buckle up, because this ghost didn't just flicker lights or rattle shelves. He touched people. It started the way most hauntings do. Small, easy to dismiss. A shopping cart rolling slowly down aisle. A single box tipping off a shelf. You'd think it was a draft or maybe gravity, right? But here's the thing, this store didn't have open windows. And these carts weren't just rolling. They were gliding as if pushed by invisible hands. Staff began whispering about it, nervously at first, like maybe they were imagining things. But then the stories started to match. Same cart, same aisle, same unsettling silence. They gave it a name, Jerry. Kind of silly, maybe, but naming the ghost made him feel less terrifying, like a roommate instead of a threat. But Jerry wasn't your average ghost. He had a schedule. Day shifts, quiet as a grave. But once the sun dipped and the last customer left, Jerry clocked in, and every employee who stayed past 9 p.m. knew the air got heavier. Like the store itself was watching you. Like Jerry was waking up. Let's talk about the doors. Automatic, sure, like most stores. But what do you do when those doors start slamming open and shut after the power's been cut? That's exactly what happened to the night manager. Standing there, hand on the breaker, watching the sensor light flicker off, only for the doors to fly open again with a thunderous slam. Again and again. I turned the power off, he said. But Jerry decided, nah, I'm going to keep opening these doors. Funny, until you're alone in the store, and those doors start clapping like applause for someone you can't see. Jerry had a favorite game, tug of war. Only, you didn't get to hold the rope. Female staff were the usual targets. A ponytailed tug when no one was near. A hoodie yanked just hard enough to make you spin around, heart racing. One clerk, let's call her Mia, was blowing up balloons for a display. Alone, quiet, focused. Then snap, her hood was yanked back so violently she nearly fell. She turned around, expecting a co-worker grinning at her. But the aisle was empty, silent, the kind of silence that rings in your ears. Mia wasn't alone. Other women reported similar incidents. Light tugs, breath on the back of their necks, cold spots that moved like someone walking by. Sometimes, Jerry would pull once. Other times, he'd do it twice, just to make sure you knew it wasn't your imagination. And always, the feeling that someone was standing just behind you. But when you turn around, there was nothing. Nothing but the hum of fluorescent lights and your own heartbeat pounding in your ears. Not even customers were safe. Regulars started whispering about the Dollar Tree ghost. One woman swore she saw a balloon float straight up into the air, stop mid-ceiling, and turn toward her. Another found coins in the middle of the snack aisle, perfectly stacked, balanced, like someone left them as an offering. A child once pointed to the stockroom and said, "There's a man back there." The staff checked. Of course, there was no one. But the kid wouldn't stop waving goodbye. Jerry liked mischief, but he never hurt anyone. Not really. Still, the staff took no chances. It became a ritual, saying goodnight, Jerry, when they locked up. A joke at first, sure, but over time it became a rule. You don't clock out without saying it. One guy didn't. Thought it was dumb. Next shift, every product he stocked the night before was dumped on the floor. Just his aisle. Nothing stolen. Nothing broken. Just scattered. Like Jerry saying, "Don't ignore me." Security cameras were no help. Footage glitched constantly between 10 p.m. and midnight. Sometimes the screens just went black for a full minute, then flickered back on to show items moved. Carts turned, chairs spun, displays facing the wrong direction. Other times, the cameras captured blurs, streaks of movement faster than any person could run, blips of static shaped like a man standing in the toy aisle, only to vanish the moment someone entered the frame. It wasn't just the physical stuff. People started hearing things. A laugh from the back room, whispers between the paper towel stacks, music playing faintly through the PA system, even though it was unplugged. One shift leader said she heard her name called in the exact voice of her mom, who was states away. She followed the voice down 3 aisles before realizing the store was empty and her phone showed no missed calls. The voice, it stopped as soon as she spoke out loud, "Jerry?" One night, the store had a blackout, total darkness for 5 minutes. Candles from the dollar aisle were lit while the manager called the power company. And in that flickering glow, they saw a movement, a shape walking between the rows, just tall enough to look like a man. He didn't make a sound, just glided between the shelves like he belonged there. When the lights came back on, everything looked normal, except for the message scrawled in dust on the break room mirror. "Thanks for the light." Word got out. New hires were warned. If you feel a tug, don't run. If the doors act up, just let them. And always say goodnight. Some thought it was just a hazing thing, an initiation ritual, until they worked a solo closing shift and heard the whisper behind them, until they felt their hoodie lift off their neck, until they saw a balloon float across the store in dead silence, tracing their steps like a curious child. One brave employee tried to challenge Jerry. He shouted, "If you're real, do something big." That night, every fluorescent light above aisle 4 exploded. At once. No storm, no surge, just pop, 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 raining tiny shards of glass on the floor. That employee never came back. Left his badge on the counter. Didn't even ask for his last paycheck. They tried everything. Sage, prayers. One girl brought holy water in a spray bottle and misted the registers. Nothing worked. Jerry wasn't a demon, wasn't evil. He was just there, watching, playing, testing limits. And maybe lonely, because when they acknowledged him, he stayed calm. But the moment they ignored him, the night became chaos. Today, the Dollar Tree still stands. Same address, same automatic doors. But if you drop by near closing, you might see the clerks glance over their shoulders a little too often. You might notice the balloons tied extra tight. And if you listen closely, just before the last employee shuts the lights, you'll hear them whisper into the empty store, "Good night, Jerry." Because even in death, Jerry never quit his job. So next time you're walking past a quiet, empty store after dark, and the doors swing open without anyone nearby, don't assume it's a glitch. Don't assume you're alone. Because some spirits don't haunt mansions or graveyards. Some haunt dollar stores, where the only thing cheaper than the prices is your sense of safety. Ever had a moment that felt off, but not quite enough to call it danger? Tonight's story starts with something as innocent as a smile. But hold on tight, because that small gesture quickly snowballs into a psychological nightmare that'll have you double-checking every glance you give a stranger. Our main character? A young woman. just trying to make a quick stop at Dollar General. Dusk was settling, the aisles were half-lit, and a friendly smile was all it took to spark something unnatural. She didn't think twice about it, just a polite grin to a man walking past her near the cleaning supplies. Harmless, right? Wrong. Minutes later, she noticed him again, then again, always one aisle away, always pretending to browse, but never picking anything up. Her stomach began to knot, not with panic, but with that creeping unease that something wasn't quite right. You know the feeling, the kind that starts behind your neck, making every hair stand up like it knows something you don't. Trying to play it cool, she sped through her shopping, tossed her items on the counter, and headed for the exit. Outside, the world was dipped in that eerie blue just before full darkness, when things blend into shadow and sounds carry too far. She took a breath of the cool air, try and shake the paranoia. But then a sound behind her. The door creaked open, heavy footsteps, and her blood went cold. It was him, the same man, the one from the aisle, the one who hadn't bought a damn thing. He wasn't just behind her anymore, he was following her. The space between their steps shrank with each passing second. Her hands gripped the plastic bags tighter. Her keys felt like dead weight. Every instinct in her body screamed, run. So she did. Her legs moved before her brain caught up, and in a blur of plastic rustling and pounding sneakers, she threw herself into her car. The door slammed, locks clicked, breath hitched, and then he was there, right outside her window, just watching, not tapping, not yelling, just watching, like he was trying to memorize her face through the glass. That's the moment she swore she saw something shift in his expression, a flicker of disappointment, or maybe hunger. She fumbled with her keys, hands shaking, engine stalling. Her heart was a hammer in her chest. And still, he just stood there, eyes like static, unreadable and endless. Then, without a word, he turned, slowly, got into the car parked directly beside hers. Not across the lot, not down the row, right next to her. It was then that the doubt slithered in. Had he really followed her, or was it all a coincidence? If so, why did it feel so wrong? He didn't pull away immediately. No, he lingered, sitting in the driver's seat, glancing sideways. One last look, one that burned under her skin like acid. It wasn't anger. It wasn't confusion. It was something curious. Like he was disappointed the story hadn't gone a different way. Like he'd been waiting for a different ending. Then, finally, he drove off, melting into the shadows like he was never really there. She sat in her car for what felt like hours, too shaken to move, too wired to think. The buzzing lights of the parking lot flickered above her. She checked her locks 5 times. She couldn't stop replaying that face, that stare, and worst of all, the feeling that she'd accidentally invited something in with a simple smile, like a trapdoor had opened just a crack, because she dared to be polite. Now she never goes out without a small weapon on her keychain, pepper spray, maybe a hidden blade. She avoids eye contact with strangers, especially those who linger too long. She doesn't smile much anymore, and who could blame her? Because in this world, sometimes all it takes is one wrong glance, one smile too many, and whatever's out there just might smile back. Imagine popping into a dollar store for shampoo and snacks and realizing too late that someone's already picked you. A regular errand turns into a slow-motion nightmare, one that slithers behind you with every aisle you walk down. Sound dramatic? Not when you realize this isn't fiction. This actually happened. And today, you'll see just how fast the ordinary can unravel into something disturbingly wrong. So buckle up, grab a flashlight, and watch your back. The mom didn't notice him at first. Just another guy browsing, right? But wait, where was his cart? Why hadn't he picked up a single item? Her little girl tugged on her arm, giggling at a stuffed bear. The mom smiled until her eyes met his. He was by the soap, just standing there, no expression, nothing in his hands. She looked away, a chill creeping up her neck. Coincidence? Probably. Maybe. Yeah. Just one of those random shoppers with zero sense of personal space. Happens all the time, right? But then she went to the toy aisle, and there he was again, barely a breath behind them, watching, his head tilted ever so slightly, like he was memorizing the shape of the child's face. The mother felt it now, full force, that primal instinct, that invisible gut scream. She took her daughter's hand tightly. Her smile vanished. "We're not staying long," she whispered, more to herself than anyone else. And when she turned down the snack aisle, the man didn't even pretend to browse anymore. Nope. Now he was just standing there, following, stalking. His eyes locked on her child like she was an object behind glass, like he was deciding something. The mom's thoughts raced. Was this guy high? Mentally ill? Or worse, planning something? She picked up speed. He matched it. No expression. No blink. Just footsteps echoing softly behind theirs. Soft as a whisper, but heavy as dread. And every time she stopped, he stopped too. She tried to look calm for her daughter's sake, but her hands were starting to shake. "Sweetie, hold on to me and don't let go," she said firmly. The girl nodded, confused but obedient. Then, in the loudest voice she could manage without screaming, the mother said, "Okay, we're done shopping now." She hoped the cashier, who looked barely old enough to drive, would hear something off in her tone. But the kid just nodded popgum and scanned a sticker book. And that's when the man stopped. He stood frozen, right at the edge of the checkout lane. For a second, he just stared. Then he turned, quick, sharp, and without a word, bolted for the exit. Gone. No purchases. No glance back. Like a phantom melting into daylight, the store felt colder without him. Emptier, but the tension still hung in the air like static. The mom finally exhaled, her knees weak, her hand still gripping her daughter's like a vice. After the man disappeared, reality flooded back in. Normal lights, normal music, normal cashier asking if she needed a bag. But nothing about it felt normal. The mom told the staff what happened, voice shaking. They just blinked, unsure what to do. A report was written, sure, but that wouldn't undo the way he watched her child. Wouldn't explain why he followed them in silence, with surgical focus. Wouldn't answer the question that kept haunting her. What if she hadn't noticed him? The police took her statement later. They were kind, but tired. Another strange incident. Logged and filed. No cameras at the store. No clear shots of his face. Just a mother's description and a chill she couldn't shake. Days passed, then weeks, but she never forgot the man's eyes. Eyes that didn't look confused or lost, just patient, calculating, like he'd done this before, like he might do it again, somewhere else, to someone else who wasn't paying attention. Now she never shops alone with her kids. She scans every aisle, checks every mirror, and when strangers get too close, she doesn't wonder anymore. She acts, because she learned something that day. Predators don't always growl. Sometimes they smile. Sometimes they pretend to be lost. And sometimes they're just a step behind you, waiting, watching, timing their move. Trust your gut. It might be the only thing standing between normal and nightmare, because in the end, nothing happened. But everything could have. And that's the horror. Not blood, not screams. Just a stranger who was almost close enough to take everything. Ever wonder what kind of evil could be hiding behind the fluorescent lights of your favorite dollar store? Yeah, you might want to skip your next bargain hunt after this one. Because what I'm about to tell you isn't just another ghost story. It's a cursed cocktail of predators, spirits, and dark rituals all crammed into one tiny store you probably drive past every day. Buckle up, because tonight's tale is about Jerry, Larry, and something even darker lurking just beyond the discount aisle. Let's start with Jerry. He wasn't just a jerk. He was a nightmare in human skin. Once a store manager, Jerry had this twisted thing for power. Rumor is, he'd fake damage reports just to give away merchandise for free. Sounds like a Robin Hood move, right? But Jerry wasn't stealing for the poor. He was charging up elder folks' debit cards on garbage like OnlyFans and whatever else satisfied his urges. And then it got worse. Much worse. People whispered that he targeted boys, young ones. No one could ever prove it, but the air around him was heavy, toxic, like standing next to something rotting from the inside out. Eventually, Jerry bailed, just up and quit. But here's the thing, he didn't leave. He stuck around like mildew. Now he hangs near a Kroger store a couple miles away, still watching, still breathing, still disgusting. There was one time he came back, tried to approach the ASM son. Yeah, the assistant manager's own kid. She snapped, told him to get lost or get hurt. Nobody talk about it now, but if you say his name too loud in that store, people flinch, like something might hear you. Or he might. Now, if Jerry was a human horror, let's meet the spiritual one. A previous merch manager wasn't just good at stocking shelves, she was deep into witchcraft. Real deal spell books, blood rituals, the whole occult starter pack. One night, she brought something into the store. Not a product, a presence. She called it X. Said it was meant to protect the place from Jerry. Yeah, from one evil to stop another. Smart move or suicide. X isn't your average Dollar Tree ghost. This thing didn't float around giggling like Casper. It settled, deep, dark, right on the second floor, a place employees were told to avoid because of old plywood. Yeah, right, that plywood's been there for years. No one's fixing it. No one's removing it. Because what's really up there is something no one wants to meet. X doesn't speak. It doesn't move things like Larry. It just waits, like a spider in its web. Speaking of Larry, let's not forget the ghost everyone used to fear before the darkness came. Larry's more of a prankster now. They say he off himself on the second floor after his girlfriend dumped him. Sad, yeah, but Larry just plays around. Moves carts, shifts balloons, knocks over boxes. Nothing violent, just lonely. It's almost like he's scared of X2. Like even in death, Larry knows not to cross that line. But here's the real kicker. X didn't come alone. People say when the witch released it, something else slipped through, something unnamed, and it's hungry. Lights go out by themselves now, not the timers. Flickers, like something is breathing on the wires. Cold spots crawl up your spine in the break room, and every so often there's that sound, scraping, like claws, on plywood, coming from the second floor. The worst part? No one knows if it's working. Was X ever protecting the store from Jerry? Or did it just attract him? What if that second floor is like a magnet for broken souls? The damned, the desperate, the demonic. And what if Jerry wasn't just some predator, but a vessel? Something else inside him? Something that still visits. Not just for the boy, but to feed. I heard this story at around 10:30. The lights started dimming on their own. It was just me and one other employee. And every second the silence grew thicker. I kept checking over my shoulder, waiting, hoping nothing would move. But then I remembered something the ASM once said. We don't go up to the second floor anymore. Not since we felt it watching us back. So yeah, maybe it's all just stories. Maybe it's paranoia. Or maybe next time you're digging through the $1 Halloween decorations, you'll feel that cold air, hear the whisper upstairs, and realize something is still watching, waiting, hungry,